Let's be innovative. Let's challenge the norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
A new beginning, another opportunity to make a statement. Lionheart celebrates its roots with the car that started it all. 18 races to determine who is the best in the most exciting form of auto racing on the planet. 200-mile-per-hour Indy cars inches from disaster or glory. There can only be one Lionheart Speedway Series champion whose name will be etched into the Lionheart history books. The Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing starts now.
The last time the Lionheart Speedway Series visited the Bluegrass State, a star was born. Alexander Van de Sant put himself on the Lionheart map with his fuel-saving prowess, coasting across the line to take the win by 3 seconds over Robert Malechka III. Now, with those memories in mind, and this race moving from nighttime to day, who will attempt to do the same? Or will this year's trip to Sparta, Kentucky be different? This is the HyperX 200 at Kentucky. Hello everyone and welcome to Race 6 of Season 2 for the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing, live on RaceSpot TV and ESTV. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable top line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit HyperX.com. My name's Justin Prince, alongside me in the booth tonight is Andrew Kinsella, along with Arjuna Kankipati in the producer's seat. You can follow along with live timing and scoring thanks to our partners at ATBO to follow along with your favorite teams and drivers in the virtual world of motorsport. Let's dive straight into our Graphics Esports Countdown to Green as we return to Kentucky in the second times series appearance at this track. The last time was under the lights, Andrew, when it came to this series. This time it's in the day, and this time could bring different challenges compared to last.
Yeah, absolutely. The transition to the day is going to present definitely some new challenges for these drivers. Tire fall off is going to be much more important here, managing those tires. And it's going to be interesting to see whether that fuel saving race that we saw from Alexander Van de Sant, is that going to carry over into this race, or is the new tires and maybe a shorter fill going to be a faster way around here today? But looking forward at the schedule, not only do we have the race here at Kentucky, but we also have Gateway here in the month of May. And so we have two very much drivers-oriented tracks here in May, so it's going to be an interesting challenge for these drivers.
Schedule brought to you by Next Level Racing, with plenty of challenges indeed, before that run all the way up to July, where it's the second of the 3 Triple Crown races. You have Michigan and Nashville with the first appearance for the Speedway Series as well, mixed in coming up. But for many of the drivers, when it comes to the driver standings presented by Graphics Esports, it has been one driver, Matt Wagner, who has been really quick from the jump, from qualifying onward. The Dark Horse Racing driver, 233 points in the season, are Craig Forsyth, Joe Branch, Trevor Malone, Matt Taylor, the top 5. That top 5 fairly close together, with several drivers really shining inside that top 10, such as Samuel Ryman with his consistency in 8th.
Yeah, there's absolutely still everything to play for as we approach the quarter mark of this season here. And you mentioned Matt Wagner. He's definitely been the fastest driver in the field so far, but he hasn't been able to separate himself because Craig Forsyth has gone and stolen a couple races from him. And then you have Joe Branch, the veteran here in this car, and he's really done a good job of just staying consistent. And that consistency has really paid off and put him in 3rd place in the standings so far. So there's a number of different ways that the season has gone for these drivers, and it's all resulted in a very, very tight points battle here.
Absolutely, and you can tell with some of the team landscapes there how things in turn have turned out for the team standings. Powerslide Motorsports, with consistency, have gotten themselves to the top of the team standings. You also have Team Race for Sunset and Dark Horse Racing starting off strong with Synergy Motorsports Black. But many of the drivers who have carried some good team and driver performances individually, should say, looking to rise themselves up, such as 4D Sim Racing with those couple victories on strategy.
Absolutely, and we can't forget your returning champions, Factory Back Motorsports. They had a rough go of it, but in the last race there, they really started to come into their own there. So look for them to really start moving up this pecking order here, and I don't think that 9th place is at all representative of the speed that they've shown so far this season. So it's going to be a lot of coming and going throughout the season in terms of the team standings as well.
Lots to think about on that side. A lot of rookies to talk about in the rookie standings presented by Butt Kicker. Andrew Wood leading those rookie standings, albeit with many years experience on the platform. But Samuel Ryman, Jim Herrick, Monstos, inside the top 3, several of the rookies have really struggled with consistency and staying out of the massive ones at plenty of the racetracks so far, Andrew.
Absolutely, that's been the story of the rookie class so far, as we've seen a lot of speed from a number of these drivers. Gavin Sanders, Jacob Oster, they've shown some tremendous amounts of speed, but they just haven't been able to find a way to finish these races out. And that's going to be the key to get back into this race. I look at particularly a guy like Jacob Oster, even a Will Gibson or a Gabriel Wood. If they could get their consistency better, they have the speed to potentially compete for this, but it's got to be about consistency from here on out.
A lot to think about with those rookies, and plenty of them could be amongst the stars here today. It's Season 2 for when it comes to the Speedway Series, as you see with our details presented by GSI for the series. Custom fixed setups built by Andrew Kinsella, in fact. Triple Crown this season, Pocono, Indy, and Auto Club once more. And it's going to be an intriguing ride with the Dallara DW12 once more at Kentucky. It's the legacy version, mind you. How would you describe the setting up process for this race compared to last year's?
Yeah, I think as we mentioned off the top, the tire fall off and managing the tires, managing the fuel strategy is going to be very important. One of the things about Kentucky is it's a very, very wide track, so getting clean air is probably easier than at a number of the tracks that we've been to so far, but it's also going to be extremely important for these drivers. So watching your lines, watching your corner entries in particular, and finding a way to have that good corner exit so that you don't wash out and up into the unforgiving concrete walls, all going to be very, very important for these drivers.
Especially when it comes to the pressure. Here for the event details presented by Moser Racing, and as you can tell, fuel saving reigned supreme under the lights of the Bluegrass State 12 months ago. Alexander Van de Sent did the improbable, went 45 laps each of his stints, and cut out an entire pit stop to be able to coax his way to victory. The pole position has never converted its way to HyperX victory lane in the past in Lionheart competition here, though. Keep in mind, in the past, in the IndyCar era, this race ended under caution twice. The closest margin to victory in the LAS back in Season 3. So there was a chance for some drivers to really sparkle their way up to the top, but it won't be as easy this year, as you have discussed several times, with that fall off. And with some of the drivers, for comparison, in the IndyCar series this year with the more modern chassis, they struggled to get to 40 laps, let alone 45.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's definitely going to be a challenge, but Kentucky is one of those tracks, I think, where it always seems to play out, where you have these compelling battles, you have a compelling race by the end of it. So as much as we've talked about strategy so far, Justin, I'm still going to say that we're going to have definitely some good wheel-to-wheel action as this race unfolds.
Drivers have an hour, minute or so to go in their warm-up session before qualifying. 5 minutes to sole qualifying laps. And keep in mind, it has gone from very sunny to very cloudy. Over top the circuit, track temperature starting to plummet in the most cloudy skies. Down to 94 degrees Fahrenheit, 71 air temp currently before the start of qualifying in some time, about 4 p.m. currently. A lot to consider, though, when it comes to some of the top drivers in this practice grouping. Shane Coogan amongst the quickest in the 24.6s. That will be a major thing, too. Will anyone be able to stand up and rise up amongst that rookie class to shine themselves forward like we've seen with some last year here?
Yeah, absolutely. Andrew Wood's another rookie in P2 right now, so we definitely have some strong rookies showing some pace here early on in the practice, but practice is one thing. The question is, can they pull that off in qualifying and the race when it really matters? So we're about to find out here, as I think practice is just about to wind down.
Indeed it will be. The drivers have completed their practice session. Overall, 35 drivers setting times throughout the session, but it's time to see how they will qualify here from Sparta, Kentucky. Here in what's expected to be a pretty quick session, to say the least. Not an easy track to qualify at. Let's talk about how you drive around said circuit. How do you, as a driver, prepare for qualifying to get that best lap possible here, knowing that margin from 1st to 20th in Lionheart competition's history usually is about a tenth of a second.
Yeah, so it's all about your warm-up laps here, Justin. You really need to get a lot of momentum coming off of turn 4. And that's going to be the first step for these drivers is to find out that outlap and really wind up the car as best they can. Then you need to be able to commit to that bottom side of the racetrack. So you will move up just slightly into turn 1, get the nice arc in through that first and second corner. But then when it comes down the backstretch, you really want to hug it tight. 3 and 4, again, you really want to ride that white line. So you can see right now, Trevor Malone using the high line. This is going to be his warm-up lap. Lap 2 of his run will be the quicker lap. So he's sacrificing the speed on lap 1, using this really, really high line, getting as much speed as he possibly can coming off of this turn 4. Now you're going to see him dive down to the bottom of the racetrack. Just like I was saying before, and he's going to hug this white line, move up just a little bit, second lane here, and then tight to this yellow line. It's so important to keep your momentum up through this corner, and then again tight on this backstretch, moving up third lane here and just getting enough of an arc to not scrub through 3 and 4. And then here's going to be the big part for these runs here, is the run here. There's a big bump coming off onto that apron there and cutting as much distance out there at the final instant as possible. Trevor Malone, the first car to really go to the front. Big Joe Hassert just has pipped him now by 11 thousandths of a second.
Jacob Oster, by the way, he's starting his first lap. He's amongst those trying the art of really trying to be as slow as possible in the first lap to help the tires. Keep away from that discussion point for the moment. Matt Wagner's had some technical issues in his qualifying session. That will be possibly a major talking point if he can't put in a lap. Of note, A grouping of drivers including Hugo Gallows, Creighton Carter, Gordon Hawkins, Chris Fowler, Jeff Gion will not be able to set times for this race. They all have EOL penalties. And as well, a big move and a big potential shocker for the standings. It is confirmed that Craig Forsyth is not here today. He'll be taking one of his drops as he's on vacation somewhere warm this week.
Yeah, unfortunate for the 4D sim racing driver there that he has to miss this race, but that's the nice thing about the Lionheart competition is you do have those drop weeks that sometimes when real life takes precedence over the virtual world and you need to use one of them, you do have them available. So unfortunate that we won't get to see him here today, but I'm sure that he's enjoying the warm temperatures.
Dave Dupree currently at the top of the standings, 24-7-1-5 currently. Still plenty of drivers to set times. Amongst those keeping an eye in turn with 4D Sim Racing, Jim Herrick. We mentioned in the rookie standings, it's been a very quiet season for the 40. He's showcased some decent performances here and there so far amongst his rookie campaign.
Yeah, we've seen him definitely shine in certain aspects of his performance. Obviously, he had some really good runs in the Retro Series as well. He's been doing very well over in that Lotus 79 car. Not quite as strong in this Dallara DW12, but I think he's definitely been learning a lot through driving in the Lionheart series, and he really seems to be one of the drivers who has the potential to break through very soon.
A lot of shuffling up around the board, including Brian Beard, who's running a different number for tonight in Sim, jumping up to second. For the time being, Jim Herrick, amongst the drivers at the bottom of the board, looking to jump up ahead. Amongst the notables who have not yet set times, Matt Taylor, Matt Wagner, who is not yet on track and will not get on track. Jim Herrick, meanwhile, he completes his respective lap towards the middle of the pack, but this qualifying session has flipped upside down for the points leader in Wagner. Not enough time for him to set up a time. He just got on the track. Andrew Wood looks to try and position himself to gain massive points in turn.
Yeah, Wood is on a flying lap right now, Justin, and I think we're about to see just how good this lap is. One of the things is the track has been cooling down throughout this session. Wood 24.708, so that was second quickest. Michael Goodman, while we were talking, he put in an absolutely massive lap to put on provincial pole right now. Wagner's trying to get around, but I don't think he's going to get in a representative time here.
You won't even get in the first lap. 10 seconds less on the clock now. Wagner will not get a qualifying time in. Matt Wagner, the qualifying king of the season, will have to start at the back with the rest of the pack there after having technical issues in qualifying. It's time to take a look at how this starting lineup will fare out tonight from Sparta. Michael Goodman starts on the pole tonight for Power Slide with a 24.671. In the final few moments of qualifying, that time was set. Andrew Wood starts in second, with Dave Dupree and Matt Taylor at the top four. Brian Beard starts in fifth tonight, with Tony Schoen rounding at the top nearly 6/100ths rounder, the top six. Big Joe Hassert starts in seventh, with Dakota DeMade in eighth, with Samuel Ryman continuing his strong performances from ninth. Trevor Malone rounds out the top 10 with Nick DeGroot tying him on the board. Joe Branch, 2 1,000ths back of them, starts in 12th. 13th place goes the way of Dean Mall with Luis Gonzalez Nunez in 14th. Gabriel Wood will start right behind him after their troubles in Atlanta with Will Gibson in 16th. AJ Musselman and Mike Gibson are in the top 18 tonight. We talked about the number 40 of Jim Herrick. He starts 19th with Gavin Sanders to his outside. Ron Hacker has had some strong performances this season. He'll start 21st alongside Shane Coogan. James Watson and Mike Rigney round out the top 24. Keep an eye on the 00 for strategy. Jacob Oster tried to keep it nice, calm, cool, and collected with some tire magic. The magic failed. He starts 25th. Gonzalo Nunez starts 26th. Ricky Harden along with Crispin Jasper in the top 28. Gary Godsell and Ryan King round out the top 30. The rest of the drivers did not set times. Of these, 4 start at the back with EOLs. Jeff Gion, Hugo Gallows, Chris Fowler, Creighton Carter, those drivers. Matt Wagner, in turn, starts at the rear after setting no qualifying time after technical issues in the session. That's a look top to bottom of your butt kicker starting grid. 35 drivers are all set and ready to race from Kentucky. Plenty to discuss when it comes to the action tonight. Plenty of featured onboard cameras to talk about as well. Amongst those charging for the back is the butt kicker on board of Chris Fowler. Sim racing is better with ButtKicker. Visit buttkicker.com. Brian Beard tonight will be carrying the Moser Racing on board. Redefining sim racing. Go further, go faster with Moser Racing. Visit moserracing.com. Also riding along with the HyperX on board, it will be Tony Schoen. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game. That's a look top to bottom of the running order and your featured onboards for tonight. 134 laps ready to be on the board here at Kentucky for the HyperX 200. Andrew, your keys to victory if you want to be the winner in Sparta.
I think you have to be on top of your strategy here today. It's going to be a strategy game one way or the other. I think that you're going to have to make hay while the sun shines on these tires. Making some moves early is going to be key. And then finally, I think it's going to be fuel management, keeping an eye on that fuel number, making sure that you're hitting the numbers. As we saw Alexander Van de Sant, if you're on top of your fuel, you can very easily be on top of the podium at Kentucky.
The drivers are all set to go from Sparta, Kentucky. Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and this is the start of the HyperX 200 at Kentucky. We're underway from Kentucky. For the most part, nice and clean. Michael Goodman leads the first lap of 134. Not so clean for Samuel Ryman. He hit the apron in 1 and 2. Samuel Ryman goes from 9th to 22nd in the span of one sequence of corners.
Yeah, that was disastrous for Ryman. He very nearly lost it about 3 times, and he had to catch it. And that's cost him a ton of time here, so definitely not what the rookie wanted there. Definitely an unfortunate start to the race for him, but we still have a hornet's nest up here at the front of this field. The action is coming fast and furious, and Tony Schoen is right in the middle of it along with Joe Hasser and Brian Beard.
Remember last year, when it came to the battling, it was important to get this done quickly because it was easy to break away from the pack, especially with the tandem drafting from the get-go for the factory back cars last year. This year, not so much in terms of the teammate pairings, a lot of shuffling possibly, DeMade amongst those looking at it with Trevor Malone losing ground.
Yeah, absolutely. DeMade is another driver who didn't have a very good start here. He's been around the back half of the top 10. As we look at the replay, and you can see Samuel Ryman, he gets on the apron once, on the yellow line once, and then he gets it a second time, and the second time is really what nearly sucked the car around on him, and it was a very lucky save there from Sam Ryman, but good car control, and fortunately we have all our drivers still pointed in the right direction here, Justin.
Battle for the race lead is on up the road. Isaiah Dupree, he had a very stellar qualifying. He looks to have a stellar run off turn 4, trying to get clean air from the high side, not able to get the ramp quite yet. Trying to get the drop, though, off Goodman.
And this is what you can do while you still have some tires under you, as you can see draft up to the leader. But as the tire run goes on, we do expect that to string out just a little bit. You can see the field behind already starting to string out, get a little bit more single file than we saw in those first few laps. But at the front is where the action is for right now. You can see Brian Beard in the yellow car there as well. He's been mixing it up. So I expect, at least for these first 10, 20 laps or so, this is the type of action that we'll be seeing.
Keep in mind, when it comes to Michael Goodman, it's been up and down on the campaign. 11th of the standings entering tonight. He at one point was amongst the top 10, keep in mind, with 2 top 10s to start off the campaign. Looking at the heart of the pack again, the purple car, Joe Hassard, still on the bottom side, still up top, trying to find a way to make things work. Trevor Malone. Malone's up 2 spots from the jump. He still seems committed to the very middle of the racetrack right now.
Yeah, and I think so far Malone has done a good job of finding that clean air that you can run. If you find, you can see that the cars in front of him are sort of running high and low, so by running that middle lane, he's just getting the clean air to that front wing, allowing it to work, giving him the downforce, and it's allowed him to reel in the cars in front of him. But the danger, of course, is doing exactly what Brian Beard just did to him, and then suddenly you find yourself without any air on the front of your wings, and it's very easy to lose a lot of time by getting caught out by that. So that's definitely something that we'll have to monitor, not just with Malone, but with all these drivers, and the strategy involved in exactly where you're placing your car as the run goes on.
We see those different lines absolutely prevalent in a track like this. Last year, we've seen drivers all the way up to the wall in one and two in particular. And with the legacy version, keep in mind, 14 degrees of banking at both ends of the circuit. And there's the same when it comes to this version of Kentucky 2. Turn 3, one of the most difficult to enter in stock cars for reference. Still very difficult in an open wheel machine, even with the multiple lines, because it's very easy to get sucked up to the safer barrier, which if you don't nail it right, you can't make passes like Nunez just did.
Yeah, 3 and 4 is definitely a difficult combination, even in IndyCar. It's so easy when you enter in 3 a little bit too hot to just get into it too far, and before you know it, you're at the exit of turn 4 and you find that wall coming up way faster than you were expecting to, and it can really surprise you and catch out a number of drivers. I've seen the best of them get caught out by that turn 4 exit wall there, so it's definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. But we've still got some battling here as Brian Beard has actually fallen back a little bit into the clutches of Dakota DeMade. Malone and Hassard are both around him now.
I've noticed this too compared to last year's trends already. The pack not breaking apart as quickly. Around this time last year, we started to see the first of 3 packs essentially. With a lot of the battles, not so much this year it seems. With the daylight racing towards the later parts of the evening, with the hotter track temperatures compared to under the lights. In fact, that track temperature referred going down for qualifying, it's gone higher than what it was at the end of practice, as Shawan goes to the inside, looks to set it hard and deep and fast, uses those tires for the good spot for 4.
Yeah, and part of that is, part of what you mentioned there, Justin, is the fact that you can't really do that tandem draft the same way that you could last year. You just don't have the opportunity to really get the good runs if you're in second place. So the leader right now, he's able to sort of break away just a little bit, and you really have to do what they're doing on screen right now. That's fanning out in the corners, and it's just preventing some of the runs again that we were getting, and it's not letting them really pack up so much as string out just a little bit.
Near contact with the wall now for the battle for 3rd. Dupree way too high up towards the edge of the safer barrier, and Dupree pays the price. He drops to 4th, possibly back to 5th. Wood tries to complete the move in the bottom. 3 wide in the battle for 16th behind him as well.
And that is AJ Musselman in the middle there between, I believe that was his teammate there, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, as well, mixed up in that battle there. So this is where all the action is, especially where we have drivers like Jacob Oster, like Matt Wagner trying to come through the field here, and they're really having to pick their lines as best they can because they know that they can't afford to let the gaps that have already started to form get any bigger than they have.
Let's take a look in the heart of the pack right now at Big Joe Hassard, and one of the major things too, we talked about this before the race. Fall off expect to be anywhere from half a second to upwards of 3/4 of a second. And listening to the tiny lifts coming in, these are getting bigger and bigger it seems, Andrew, with not just the aero wash, but also the tire wear really kicking in midway.
Yeah, absolutely. This is where the best drivers in this series really come to the fore. You see Joe Hassard making the nice move around the outside of Isaiah Dupree there, and really not only just managing the tires, but picking those lines and making those subtle plays with the pedals. But right now, up front, Matt Taylor putting a lot of pressure here on Michael Goodman. We might just have our first pass for the lead here, Justin.
The crossover coming out of turn 2. Will it stick with the slide job attempt in turns 3 and 4? Yes. Matt Taylor to the race lead for the first time. Goodman drops to second. Taylor had been the quickest car on the track the past 10 laps, and now he tries to set sail.
Now the question is, does Michael Goodman have an answer here? He was the fastest car in qualifying. He's been fast all week, and he was fastest for the beginning 10 laps until Taylor really started to reel him back in. So will Goodman be able to have an answer? And that's really been the story, I think, of Goodman's season so far, is he's been really, really fast in qualifying, but the race pace is just, it's been lacking just a little bit. Of course, he had the really bad luck at Atlanta where he got caught out by that caution, and we didn't really see all the potential that he had after a really good start to the race. But it's one of these drivers that I think he's just knocking on the door of having some really successful runs, but he hasn't put it all together in the race like he has in his qualifying runs.
See, right now, Dupree amongst those really dropping back here, too. We talked about the fall off Dupree, falling back now to the 25 fours. The leaders, 25 ones currently at the head of the grouping. So Dupree just seems to be starting to really hit that struggle bus all of a sudden after his great qualifying run. Bad corner exit again, loses him ground as we look at the battle for third.
And that looks like Tony Shalin under a lot of pressure there from Andrew Wood right behind him. Wood, of course, has been racing against Tony Shalin in a number of different cars for a number of years, so a lot of respect between these two drivers here. But Wood is one of those drivers who, especially early on in the race, he really likes to go forward as fast as he can and get whatever he can out of the early stints of the race. So it doesn't surprise me that he's putting this kind of pressure on Tony Shalin, but it's back here in the pack where we're seeing a lot of the action right now. 23rd, 24th, that's Shane Coogan, Mike Rigney, Chris Fowler, all in a hornet's nest here with some really fast cars right behind them as well. So this is where all the action is as the front end of the field starts to string out. And Chris Fowler, he's another driver who we're looking to really get through the field here.
Looking on board with the butt kicker on board camera. We're amongst those, carving his way to the pack, up 10 positions, Nautical in the EOL positioning. Cycling right on behind Matt Wagner, trying the bottom side, not working too well it seems off turn 2 though this race. Of note amongst those coming from the very back, Matt Wagner, we mentioned did not set a qualifying time. He's up to 19th and has broken away from that pack we were just watching with.
Yeah, he just got around the teammate to AJ Musselman, and that's Jacob Oster. Wagner has been on the march throughout this entire race. It's been really, really impressive to watch some of the move that he's been making, just quietly working his way forward. He hasn't been taking too much risk, but at the same time, he's been maximizing every move, maximizing his runs really well. So definitely a car to watch as the run goes on, but also back up front, the battle for now second place and third place has really heated up again. Wood still all over the back of Tony Shalin, but that fight has brought Trevor Malone and Joe Hassard into this as well.
Reason battle for second. Goodman has just about lost the toe from Matt Taylor. Taylor has broken the draft officially this time now. Over a second the gap. Goodman falling right back into the clutches of Shalin and Wood for the time being. They'd still try and play a bit of chess to set things up. Meanwhile for DeMade, sets things up on the high side. Brian Beard trying the low side. Beard still bouncing up and down the running order. He drops to a -4 for the race so far.
Yeah, and it's one of the situations that you can run into is when you practice a lot of qualifying and you find yourself at the front of the field, sometimes you can let that race practice just slip a little bit, and it's very, very important to get the clean the dirty air running in on a track like this to really understand how the car works and what lines you need to do. And I think that maybe Brian Beard and Dakota DeMade, they're not quite as well versed as some of these drivers right at the front, especially you look at the likes of Matt Taylor and what he's been able to do in the run so far.
Looking again at the battle going on for third again. Goodman trying to break the draft with all the shuffling. Wood wants to get right on by that 31 machine. Wood still can't find a way around, and this has allowed Malone and Big Joe Hassard to be within spitting distance again. Here comes the draft though. Wood to the inside. He goes for the slider towards the bottom. Not able to clear by fully Tony Shalin though. Shalin holds on to his rear again.
And that shows you just how important having that run on and that momentum on the outside is, because you can really defend like Shalin is doing, and it doesn't take a lot of risk to do what Shalin is doing, because you really do have a lot of grip. What he's forcing Wood to do is he's burning off the tires for Wood harder and harder, because it is definitely more difficult to keep the car on that bottom lane lap after lap. So it's just sort of a war of attrition with Shalin as you see Wood starting to slot back in behind and maybe think to cool down the tires just a little bit here.
That reset on tap as well though comes just after Goodman broke the draft from this battle. Here's the HyperX on board again. No move from Wood, albeit he elects to take a face full of aero wash. Down the high side, taking advantage of the bottom side, Trevor Malone.
And that's really key to making moves as the run goes on here. We're 33 laps into the stint now, and the tires are really starting to fall off. So what you need to do to make the moves, rather than being aggressive, is you have to be opportunistic like Malone was, trying to be there and really take advantage of other drivers' mistakes. But you can see with one lap the bottom line will work, and one lap the car in front of you goes down and runs that same lane, and then Trevor Malone just got a face full of air from Tony Schown, and Wood is back up in a secure fourth place now.
There's that difficulty of trying to get passes done coming there right before get things started with the first expected pit stop window. The fuel estimates today around 40 laps, similar to that with the Dallara IR18. And Gary Godso has actually just signaled right now that he wants to pit, but he's at the back of the grouping. We'll see how the rest of the leaders fare out as we see the battle going on around 13th position. Nunez looking to try and get away, trying to close up the Dean Mull as well with Nick DeGroot, Jim Herrick, Gavin Sanders in the group. Sanders trying to attack amongst this pack.
Yeah, and I don't mind this call from Gary Godso. What he's doing is he's saying, I'm not going to try and cut out a stop a la Alex Van de Sant from last year. He's going straight for some speed, and he's going to try to get a little bit of an undercut going. And why not, if you're back in the field, maybe this will get you a little bit further up on this next run and get you a little bit more clean air, because you can see just how much dirty air all of these drivers are in. And I can tell you, when you're this far back in the field, it's not very much fun to be getting aero wash no matter what lane you run, corner after corner, lap after lap.
And on top of not just the aero and the fact that drivers like Sanders are just saying, let's drive around the top to avoid some of the dirty air, why don't we? Drivers will have to figure out how to sort themselves out for the pit entry. That was a major talking point in Atlanta, of course, with the contact there. Communication very critical, but a few drivers practicing their pit entries here at Kentucky looped it onto the entry, including drivers like Wagner, you see trying to cut towards the bottom here. In other words, not going to be an easy entry, as drivers are not using that run on the access road for the entry, have to stay on the apron though, all the way to the blue cone off turn 2 for the exit.
Yes, Chris Fowler, we just saw on screen, he was another one taking that early stop, and he's another driver that was victim of the EOL penalty at the beginning, and he really had to find a way to get off strategy here and try and make some time.
Hey, we got a problem for Gary Godso. He's got a black flag. Godso's have to come back to the pit lane. So he may have made a mistake on his exit that's seen him have to come back and serve a stop and hold.
Yeah, and one of those things is because you do have to hit that blue line on the exit of 2, is sometimes it's very easy to just misjudge it a little bit. And I think what Gary Godso did is he just fell afoul of the tire rules in terms of where he was crossing the line, and that's going to cost Gary Godso big there. One other thing to note just quickly, Ryan Eric King had some connection issues earlier on in this race, and through that connection issues, unfortunately found himself in the fence, and his day is done.
Can confirm tech issue, where the hard thing is with the tech issue like what he had, if you can't see where you're going, it's very difficult to avoid the wall. By the way, Taylor, Malone, amongst those coming in to pit this time around, Dupree and Goodman have already completed their service. Goodman has a 2-second buffer right now over Dupree. There's a look at Taylor. He's now in the box for his first pit stop of the race.
Yeah, so this is big news for Matt Taylor. So that definitely means that he cannot go all the way to the end here. It's just a little bit out of reach. Some of these drivers, though, they're getting towards that point in time, Justin, where we might be thinking of cutting out a stop for some of these drivers.
So all of a sudden, the theme music of Alexander Van de Sant coming back on in, as Wood and company dive on in. Big Joe Hasser coming in, others going for the massive lockups. Nunez nearly finding some friends to his rear wing. But amongst those trying to stretch it, Joe Branch, Nick DeGroot, Dean Mull, Jim Herrick, and guess who? Matt Wagner.
And we've seen this a number of times from Joe Branch, especially already this year. He's been one of the fuel masters here, so it doesn't surprise me to see him trying to stretch this once again. And Branch coming in here. Oh, as That was Jim Herrick nearly losing it on pit entry there, Justin.
No black flag on the entry, but 2 drivers have made it around to lap 45. Dean Mall, Matt Wagner. Both of them looking to come in. Wagner's out.
Wagner's out of fuel.
Gas.
That's disaster for Matt Wagner. He tried to push it 1 lap too far, and this is going to cost him big time, Justin.
Matt Wagner tried to follow the same strategy as Van der Sant from last year. Too much pushing may have cost him dearly. Dean Mall did make it to the pit lane, it looks like, without the fuel running out until the middle of the pit lane, it seems. He'll run to the very edge of his box at 42 miles an hour, service off and away, and now it's time for the chess match. Similar to last year, this takes the whole race to play out. If this works, Taylor and Goodman, first and second.
Yeah, we've got a few drivers, I think, that have a shot at making it, but the danger, as you saw with Matt Wagner there, is you can just run it out of fuel, and if it doesn't, then then it can mad. But we got a replay with Luis Gonzalez Nunez here, and I think there might have been a penalty.
Near penalty, near contact more so with Sanders. You see how hard some of these drivers are trying to dive it on in to get to 50 miles per hour, the speed limit here tonight. But things have cycled to Taylor, Goodman, Schowen, Malone, Hassert, the top 5. Amongst those who are on that massive undercut call, Chris Fowler is up to 10th with his decision-making. How long will it be is the question. The difference on his tires, upwards of 5 to 7 laps. He's already dropped out of the top 10 to Nunez. Brian Beard trying to do the same to pass him for 11th.
Yeah, and you can just see the fall-off that happens with those older tires, but at the same time, that is just a massive gain there from Chris Fowler. Meanwhile, some of the drivers who went much longer, you look at Joe Branch, he's fallen outside the top 10 now. He was knocking on the door before, and he's a full 10 seconds back of your leader now. So all that to say that if the likes of Joe Branch can make it on fuel, then he can lose about 10 seconds every run and still be just fine. But you really have to be careful with the time loss and time gain. And of course, if a caution comes, everything changes on all of these strategies.
That's where you have to hope that things go green all the way to the finish, just like last year. Wagner, with his mistake and him running out of gas, he had been inside the top 20 after his recovery from no qualifying time. He's in 30th position, 18 seconds back amongst the final cars in the lead lap because of that running out of gas moment down the back straightaway. Absolutely disastrous. For reference, Dean Mole is only 4 seconds up the road from him in 25th.
Yeah, it was absolutely a miscalculation there from Matt Wagner. I think it was just a careless moment, not realizing just how tight he was on fuel. I will say, Justin, that iRacing in the last build, they did change the thresholds for the fuel with the default spotter, and it's now a little bit tighter. So I'm wondering if Matt Wagner was sort of used to the old method of the callouts for the fuel, and he just didn't realize just how close he was to running out there.
That's going to be a major talking point possibly for some after the race, and something the drivers might ask him directly at this point, knowing how risky that call was, the tire fall off. By the way, the top 2 have broken away 2 seconds apiece from each other. 4 seconds back of the leader is Tony Schowen, who leads the main choo-choo train. Trevor Malone trying to provide pressure. Andrew Wood lost a couple spots with him going with a couple lap fresher tires with his decision-making there.
Yeah, and it's important to note as well, Justin, that that's Power Slide Motorsports in 2 and 3 right now. So their teammate Joe Branch on the fuel strategy, but Goodman and Schowen on what we'll call the main strategy here tonight. They're also looking very strong. So your team championship leaders are looking really good to extend their lead right now.
Meanwhile, in the case of Matt Taylor, he's doing Matt Taylor things. Where have we seen this before when it comes to the 2-time series winner? 24th start, mind you.
Oh, and we have a massive crash here in turn 3.
Caution is out, and it's Chris Fowler riding the safer barrier. More cars cautioning at the bottom of the track of the pit entry. Jacob Oster upside down several times over. Ryan Beard collected. And for the first time in the Speedway series, we're under yellow at Kentucky.
Yeah, and this is the danger of being out on different fuel. I think it was just a case where Brian Beard here, he wasn't expecting Chris Fowler to have to lift as much as he did. He gets into the back of Fowler, and then poor Jacob Oster, just nowhere to go. And then Jacob Oster, even to add insult to factory-backed injury, collects his teammate there as well.
That has been the type of season Jacob Oster has had when he's been up at the front. He's been involved in the trouble. When he's been in the heart of the pack, he's been involved in the trouble. And watch for turn 3 entry. This is where it sparks up. Beard will run to the back end of Fowler here. That's what really sparks it on the entry to turn 3.
Yeah, and it's just those older tires from Fowler. Beard just isn't anticipating that he's going to lift as much as he needs to. Fowler has a face full of air wash from the car in front, and then nowhere for Jacob Oster to go. I feel so bad for Jacob here.
So another night for Jacob Oster with disaster coming towards his way. Sees him with hard contact on the outside wall and flipping to the inside along with Brian Beard. Here's an air look at full speed. And watch some of the drivers coming into this to see the craziness. This is AJ Musselman.
Yeah, you can see the incident happens well in front of Musselman, but then these cars are flipping down and just bam!
Oh. Well, he's lucky that the iRacing gods may have smiled at him. By the way, pit stop strategies have seen 5 stay out. Mole, Harden, Watson, Wagner, Gallez. Matt Taylor the first off the pit lane, as the rest of the drivers complete their service for the fresh tires and fuel. And now this will really shake things up with some of the drivers on the alternate strategies, risking things here, and others hoping for another caution, such as Harden and company, that can give them the fresh tires. This plays out regardless. This could get intriguing with about a 1-stop for every other driver with this caution.
Yeah, there's one big name in that pack of drivers that I'm really looking at, and that is Matt Wagner. He stayed out there. Of course, he was one of the last drivers to pit there, running out of fuel on that first stint and having to coast into his box. So this has put him back at the front of the field, but he's going to be on about 12-lap-old tires by the time this goes green again. So the real question is, will Wagner be able to make those older tires work, or will he be swallowed up by those drivers on the new tires behind him? Because now, regardless, they're probably all going to be on basically the same strategy now, but all of the people that he would have had an advantage on being up a stop, they've now made that stop up.
This will be a very intriguing rest of the race, to say the very least. By the way, light still on top of the iRacing pace car currently. Gary Gonzo in position to get the lap back for him in 34th. That will put him 3 laps down still. With the best run from that mark to get up to 32nd, hoping for a lot more luck from here. But now it gets really intriguing as well for some of the others who have a chance to regroup here. Tony Schauen amongst those with a chance to regroup to fight back on Goodman again, his teammate. You also have, though, drivers like Dupree now on fresh rubber and equal footing. Gabe Wood, he started off good on the short run. He's on equal footing. A few drivers with a second reprieve, so to speak, to try and settle things down, as long as things don't get to the point where the tables flip upside down and things don't settle out.
Yeah, exactly. This is definitely a reset for a lot of the drivers, and a couple of drivers that maybe made a few mistakes there in that first run, as we do have another car going down on a pit lane there. Who is that?
That would be topping off Hugo Gallez, it looks like, amongst the drivers who elected to stay out the previous times. So Gallez electing to dive out of the line, stay possibly out of the trouble. Godso gets the wave, as expected. And now, with 1 to go, Mole, Harden, Watson, and Wagner all are taking the risk. Taylor, Goodman, Schauen, and Malone round to the top 8, followed by Andrew Wood, Big Joe Hassert, Isaiah Dupree, Dakota DeMade, Gabe Wood. Wants the top 13. Of note, a few of the drivers already saving a little bit, it looks like. Some of them separate by more than a second during this pace lap, and some are still trying to get themselves gathered up before they make their way to the safer barrier top line.
Yeah, the fuel strategy is far from played out. Even though we have sort of cut out one of the problem stops, there's still ample opportunity to do some different things here as the run goes on. So definitely still very intriguing to see how this race plays out from a strategy perspective.
Just about all set to go, 75 laps to go this upcoming time by for the HyperX 200 at Kentucky. Steamboat in control of the field for the first time tonight in the number 23 machine. His chrome machine will look to try and keep things nice and clean up front. Pace car off. Up and away on the launch. Green flag is back out. Dean Ball checks out. The rest of the pack staying single file all the way to turns 1 and 2. A clean start. No major issues for anyone in the pack, it looks.
Yeah, really nice clean start. We have a little bit spread out single file racing. Looked like I think that was Trevor Malone and Tony Schowen got a little Schowen. I think almost looked like he missed a gear there or something because he really fell back on the back straightaway, and that's put him behind both Malone and now Wood as well.
Malone quickly dived his way underneath there. Joe Hansard gets himself near a cutoff by Schowen on the defense. Schowen under attack by Wood from the high side. Hansard loses ground to the bottom into turn 3, side by side still for 8th. Wood clears. Here comes Dupree now trying to rip the top.
Yeah, I think Dupree's learned from that first stint where he was sort of glued to the bottom of the track and burned off his tires. He's really trying to make that outside work now, but Schowen, he's looking really aggressive, trying to make up for his mistake there and losing the lead draft here. But Malone, he's the one who's taken full advantage so far. But look at this move from Schowen.
Schowen really wants to get this settled out, and here and now, especially with the air being fed to both of them by Trevor Malone. The draft being picked up by Schowen into the corner. Schowen again the send. Schowen tries the bottom. Too tight. Wood is clear. Here comes Joe Hansard to take advantage.
And that's the danger of having that inside line. You can really lose a lot of time. But here is the move for the race lead. Matt Taylor back in front. It's only taken him about 5 laps for those fresh tires to go back to the front of this field.
Very quickly, Taylor cut his way to the back. Dean Mull tries to hold on. Will that be enough to try and even keep in that draft? Goodman also is amongst those cutting through quickly. Wagner maintaining decent pace. Trevor Malone is nearly to the back end of the old tire pack at the moment. Things settle things on down for now. Unless you're Dupree and Schowen who are side by side. Bound for the lead, sees Goodman now trying to attack Mull for second.
And you can just see how much of a difference those fresh tires make, especially now that the pressures are back up in those tires. They're drivers that stayed out are just a sitting duck. And I expect that Malone and Wood and company will quickly be moving up through these other drivers as well.
Plenty of strategies to consider towards this halfway mark of the race, keep in mind, with 30 cars on the lead lap. Already Joe Branch is leading Pack 2. The pack's starting to separate a little bit quicker, to say the very least, compared to the starting run of the race. Goodman, he wants his lead back, though. Closest he's been once again to Matt Taylor since Taylor zipped on by him early on. Meanwhile, everyone else staying acquainted near 4 wide behind him.
And this is partially a product of having those older tires and those new tires right around each other. You can see that it just creates a little bit of chaos here. And Matt Wagner is the one who's sort of the cork in the barrel right now. Wood goes to the inside and looks like he's going to be able to hold it on the inside, but Ricky Harden is trying to make it work on the outside as well. So definitely a lot of strategy, a lot of defensive driving here from some of these drivers on those older tires. But I do think that Matt Wagner is quickly going to get swallowed up here, just like Watson has going back through the pack as well, with DeMade and Schowen now attacking him, as well as Gabe Wood.
Gabe Wood quickly getting on by in the Eric Spanky machine. Watson tries to stay top. Dupree really backs it down. Dupree has struggled on the bottom of turn 4 exit all throughout this race. It's cost him even more time there.
Yeah, I really think that Dupree really needs to just retire that inside line from his repertoire and stick to the outside, because we've seen him get a number of runs on that outside line, but he just can't make that turn 4 exit work if he's on the inside. So right now, though, Watson, he is being attacked from both sides here, because not only is Dupree in there, but Gavin Sanders, Nick DeGroot, and Luis Gonzalez Nunez all looking to get past the driver here on the older tires.
Watson stays up, lets by Sanders. Here comes Nick DeGroot. Dupree boxed in, a massive lift. Nunez launches it in, trying to clear by Dupree as a result. And Dupree continues to plummet his way through the running order. Ricky Harden also wants those under attack just up the road. Here's a look at the battle just in front of Harden and company, including Joe Hassard on the high side. Still trying to find a way around Wagner. Malone has broken away from Wagner. The only driver who really hasn't plummeted outside of Dean Moll in this strategy call, mind you, has been Wagner. Still, he's in 6th position, up to 2 to 3 tenths slower a lap though on average.
Yeah, he's making this work, and really it was his only play after he made that mistake on his fuel strategy in the first run. This was a good play, even if he is losing some time, losing some positions. He's far further up the field than he would have been if he had pitted, so I definitely don't mind the call, but I just don't think that this is necessarily going to be a race-winning call for Matt Wagner here, as he gets very close to the outside there with Joe Hassard in tow.
Wagner stays out of trouble for now and loses a spot. For many others, they look to settle up their spots and look to shuffle through the strategy calls. More coverage of the HyperX 200 at Kentucky comes up right after this. You're watching the Lionheart Speedway Series presented by Moser Racing on RaceSpot and ESTV.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
Welcome back to the Bluegrass State for more coverage of the Lionheart Speedway Series and the HyperX 200 here at Kentucky. Justin Prince, Andrew Kinsella with you, with our producer Andrew, and Juna Kankipani should say, as these drivers look to say, I can be a winner here at Sparta. It has been a race filled with intrigue, strategy, but one thing's remained constant. Not just the pace of Matt Taylor, but as well, the pace of some of the rookies in this series, such as Andrew Wood's charge now up to second, and others looking to try and roll the strategy cards out.
Yeah, Wood's been looking really, really strong. Another driver to keep your eye on who just cracked the top 10 is Gavin Sanders, another rookie driver who's been having a really strong race here today. He's up 10 spots from where he started from as well. But as he said, the strategy dice has been rolled by Matt Wagner. He's managed to stabilize his runs so far in that 6th position, so really, really strong stuff. He's overtaken Dean Mall, in fact, to be the leading car with the older tires who stayed out on that last caution.
Yes.
So really strong stuff. The question is, can he get all the way to lap 89, Justin? Because that's going to be the magic number for him in order to get it to the end on one more stop.
Matter of fact, Craig Forsyth, watching along from his vacation here tonight, said that exact same lap. He thinks, and I quote, "Staying out to gain 30 spots was very much the right decision," with a smiling face. Well, he's not wrong. In terms of gaining 30 positions, as the positive, absolutely. Wagner still a plus 26 from his qualifying spot. But with 50 laps to go, we're approaching the opening up that pit window to get to the end of the race, around 40 laps to go. Most of the drivers can hit that mark. It's borderline for those who stayed out and were among the early pitters, though, the previous caution. Amongst those concerns would be Ricky Harden, as well as James Watson, who would have to get a caution here and now if they want to maintain maybe a lap on the lead lap, if not 2 laps in their moments. Keep in mind, Gatso lost 3 laps with this county before.
Yeah, Watson here, he I don't believe came in on the same lap as Wagner, so he has to save even more to make it to lap 89, and I think that's why we've seen him fall all the way down to 24th position, while Wagner has been able to stay up in that top 6 position that he's running in right now. But right now, it's Matt Taylor in the front, Andrew Wood, and then Michael Goodman is really starting to be the cork in the bottle here of this front train. But we've seen some side-by-side action here right now with Dakota DeMade, and I believe Tony Schowen, yes.
Schowen trying the bottom to get it held on with DeMade. DeMade, give him credit, he's been absolutely relentless trying to get these runs along the hottie side with his orange, black, and teal machine. And DeMade, remember, had some good standards and good expectations built up with some of his performances when he appeared last year in the series. He's 14th in the standings, 1 top 5 though this season so far.
Yeah, but he's got a fast rookie right beneath him, as that's Gavin Saunders getting up 1 more position. He's really been on the move since this caution flag. I think he was one of the drivers in that first run that was really trying to save Justin, but I think he's turned up the wick here, and he's showing a lot of speed here.
He's slowly been improving more and more. We talked about him a little while ago, as in the previous round, should say. Up 11 spots in this race. In terms of the lap times, he is amongst the top 5 quickest on the circuit over the past 10 laps average. Sanders absolutely living up to some of those points. By the way, Watson and Harden having to come in this time by. So remember those concerns? Well, they're going to have to try and pull the Van de Sande if they want to hold on to some of the positions at the checker flag. If it stays green, that has to be in the mind of a couple of the others, especially with Dean Mull reaching 45 now, as well as Matt Wagner.
Yes, exactly. So these guys who are down on pit road this time by, they're at the very outside of the window. They're going to have to do a lot of fuel saving here to make it. But it's the guys like Matt Wagner who really have stretched it out. So he's pushing on to lap 91 here. So really strong stuff from Wagner. This is going to turn out really well for Dean Mull and Wagner both, because they were mired back in the field. No more. They are well within the top 10 now.
Dean Mull's indicated he'll have to come in. One of the drivers just a little bit back behind Mull. Keep your eyes peeled. There's the peel off. Schowen and Sanders quickly take care of that, with Nick DeGroot zipping on by as well in the sequence. Sanders trying to still set things up. And keep in mind, Race First really has showcased a lot of speed when it comes to Speedway Series. Trying to really cut their way ahead. As you see Mull in, Wagner will join him this time. He's indicated over the radio.
Yeah, Wagner's already pulled himself in. Definitely a better pit entry this time from Wagner, although he does lock up the tires just a little bit on that pit entry, but I think he was just about slowed down in time. But this is going to be the story here is, right now, the one thing about this strategy call is he's gotten far enough that he can basically go full out from here on in, maybe just a little bit of saving. What he's going to have here, Justin, is he's going to have some fresh tires here for the next few laps. So will Matt Wagner be able to put in some scorching times as Gavin Sanders is on pit road as well? So will Wagner be able to put in some scorching times and maybe even get himself up closer towards that Matt Taylor-Andrew Wood fight?
Major questions absolutely on the line. DeMaine, meanwhile, losing tons of ground all of a sudden. Was among those battling just up the road a little bit. Now it's Nunez and Wood battling with them. He's decided it's time to pit. He'll bring Tony Schowen along in front of him. Wood behind him. They peel on into the lane, no speeding penalties amongst them. In fact, no speeding on the entry here today. No major spins on said entry yet.
And the yet is the key point here. I think hopefully we can get through this final round of pit stops, and that should be it for the danger zone here. But as you say, it's a very tricky pit entry. We do have basically you're braking on the banking, and then you have to make the transition. And it's so easy in that transition to just lock up your tires and spin around. We've had a couple of near misses, but it's been clean so far. Right now, though, cracking battle on track. That's Sam Ryman trying to make up for some mistakes that he made at the very beginning of the race here, and he's got a real good battle here with Will Gibson.
Right from the opening lap, in fact, that mistake. As you see Matt Taylor starting his 40th lap on the stint, coming up to 41 this time. No signs of a call yet from the race leader. 1.1 seconds the gap over him, above Andrew Wood on the board. They continue to chip on around. Wood, keep in mind, he's going for the undercut call. Will this work out for the 64?
Yeah, so I think if I'm Matt Taylor, I have to respond to Andrew Wood here. He's one of the drivers who is close enough to Matt Taylor that he could really make that undercut work. And it's nice to have these laps in the bank if you're Matt Taylor to come back at the end, but you can't afford to let a driver like Andrew Wood get out in front of you.
Taylor, realizing that, has come in this time. Michael Goodman back up to the race lead. To lead his 19th lap of the race, Taylor's led 68 of them, the most in the race, keep in mind. Also coming down, Jeff Gion, Big Joe Hassert completing the service, Nunez coming out as well as Andrew Wood. So this could get interesting. Where will Wood cycle up? Near a bit of a bobble down the back.
So, yeah, sorry, Wood got extremely loose on that pit exit there. It's very bumpy, and it's very easy to lose the car and put yourself into the wall there. He came within a couple of inches of that inside wall there, but it was definitely a brave pit exit from Wood, and he was trying to maximize every bit of that tire, that undercut advantage that he's trying to get. But I think Matt Taylor has done well enough to get back out in front of Wood.
Off and away, Taylor indeed clear. In fact, Andrew Wood battling with the lap car right after that lap. Not going to help him close up the gap. In fact, it's lost him a bit of ground on said gap. Wood, about 37 seconds in the lane. Matt Taylor, a second and a half quicker on that mark. Here's Trevor Malone. He also has finished his service. He'll cycle a fair bit behind Michael Goodman and company, though, on circuit.
Yeah, and worth mentioning as well, Justin, one of the big losers so far in this pit cycle is Matt Wagner, who has fallen not only behind Tony Schowen, but also Gavin Sanders and Trevor Malone as well. So not the pit cycle that Wagner was hoping for, I'm sure.
Essentially the forced undercut / fuel save call. By the way, Mike Rigney, he's gotten a black flag and has had to come back down to the pit lane. Serve said stop and hold. So another driver on the exit picking up some penalizations. Most of the drivers, in fact, all have come in for their estimated final stops of the race. Taylor, Wood, Goodman, Schowen, Sanders now the top 5. The major mark for some will be, will drivers such as, say, Goodman, who has the freshest tires out of the top 5, be able to get there? Or will drivers like, say, Trevor Malone, who's on that same tire cycle, be able to push ahead here? He's in the drafting pack with Sanders and Schowen, or you have Isaiah Dupree wreck the car to bring us under caution.
Unfortunately, though, Justin, we just did complete that pit cycle, so this hasn't thrown anybody under the strategy bus, but this does change everything. All that work that Matt Taylor did to get that big lead going out there, that's all by the wayside now, as you can see what happened here with Isaiah Dupree. And unfortunately, though, to me, it just looked like he turned in, and the car, I believe that was Ron Hacker right beside him. He wasn't expecting Dupree to turn in quite as much as he did, and then nowhere for Watson to go here.
The Dark Horse Racing car, and as you see, Watson off and away. Doesn't look like he picked up too much damage, if any, after being used as a ramp. Meanwhile, for Dupree, he had one of the quickest toe triggers I think I've seen in the middle of the air, with this bit of air and a bit of lift. There he goes.
Yeah, that was definitely the quickest I've ever seen a car toe out. I almost wonder whether there was some kind of penalty applied to him that put him there, because I've never seen it go quite that quickly. But yeah, for some reason today, this is the second time we've seen a driver hit another driver from underneath and be used as a ramp, and it seems like, at least with this old damage model, that it's been forgiving of that. So it looks like James Watson has in fact escaped too much damage from this, but I think he is coming down pit lane this time just to make sure that he gets it fully repaired.
Well, as amongst those with the different strategies, in fact, Watson, simple 8.2 second stop to Made, Hardin, Coogan, Musselman, also electing to take the time to get some fresh Firestone rubber on their machines with under 30 to go. And now it gets intriguing too, on the mark of, do you dare have a gamble of a tire strategy if you have another caution from this mark? Because I think back to the IndyCar race that happened a little while ago when it came to Kentucky. The winning move was to take the tires despite the 15-lap run, and the winner of the race charged through the pack to take the lead with under 5 to go down the backstretch.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is the potential to have a little bit of a tire strategy if we do get another caution, but that is a big if so far, because we've only had 2 cautions. That being said, the track temperature has fallen here, Justin, so I do anticipate a little bit tighter racing here this next stint, especially now that we're all back packed up again. So what's the saying? Cautions breed cautions, so that very could be that we see another caution and we see this tire strategy play that you say there.
We'll see if Barney the Flagman has enough spare yellow flags to help trigger said yellow flags when they need to be said triggered. But in all seriousness, take a quick time to acknowledge one thing, Andrew. While we have this time with the calm period before the craziness coming up, you had a very busy weekend. Congratulations. You are now married.
Yes, I am. I have married my now wife, former fiance, Sophia, and I'm not sure if she's watching here today, but she is a frequent viewer, as most of the regular viewers know, of the Lionheart broadcast. So we had a lovely wedding this weekend. It was absolutely perfect. We got married in outdoor ceremony, and the sun was shining, and it couldn't have asked for anything better. So shout out to Sophia if she's watching, but definitely thank you for the kind words there, Justin.
Again, congratulations. I know Sophia absolutely loves to follow along with the open wheel racing here, Racepot, as well as on ESTV. Also, I believe drives Arjuna up and down a little bit during some of those. It's a very fun time when Sophia is watching along, indeed it seems. But for Matt Taylor, he'll look for a little bit of a calmer time here. Because with 28 coming to 27 to go with the green flag coming up next time around, he's been the dominant driver of the race. 73 of 106 laps led, and he was one of the few, and has been one of the few, should say, who's been able to make a pass despite the aero wash and carve his way to the pack like he did.
Yeah, there are a number of drivers that I want to keep my eye on, including the likes of Trevor Malone, and this will also change things for Matt Wagner. He won't have to fuel save anymore, so if he was fuel saving, he's going to be able to turn it all the way up. Then Gavin Sanders, what more can we say about him? 20th on the grid to 5th place right now. He's really been doing well, as you say. So there's a lot of intrigue in the back half of this top 10 in terms of people who can really potentially move up here and spoil Matt Taylor's day so far.
How will things play out? Wood was closing in before the pit stop window. Will Andrew Wood have a chance to be able to strike forward? Will Michael Goodman use a little bit of those fresher tires, be able to pass on by here? Will Trevor Malone be able to do the same? Will drivers on older rubber like Shawan, Sanders and company be able to make things stick? Let's find out. Pace car is off. Green flag waves. Backing away. 27 to go. And now a clean start off the launch from Kentucky. Andrew Wood immediately gets to work on the lap car. That's Jim Herrick, who immediately yields to the passers for position.
Yeah, Jim Herrick yields, but unfortunately I think a little bit of the damage has been done for Wood because Herrick didn't necessarily get the best start there, and it's allowed Matt Taylor to really sort of gap the battle back to Andrew Wood. But the car on the move right now, look at that number 99 car, Michael Goodman. He is going for second place here, and he looks really fast here. And Andrew Wood's getting a little bit swamped here. Trevor Malone and Tony Schowen both attacking him as well.
Wood not the greatest of launches he may have been looking for. Here comes Malone to the inside. Side by side, nearly for third as Malone pushes hard up the track with the aero wash. Tony Schowen tries to regroup. Wood tries to get the drop back on Goodman. They fight hard for second. Taylor looks to check out. 3 wide nearly into turns 1 and 2.
That was an aggressive dive there from Trevor Malone. He is trying to make hay while the sun shines on his tires. And he is holding no quarter with Wood as they get very close through turn 3 there. That was nearly disaster, and Malone had to really back out of it. That's going to bring Schowen back into it.
Oh,
Gavin Sanders there. Oh, no, Goodman!
Goodman gets turned by Andrew Wood up into the racetrack. Caution is out. Goodman just avoids additional contact. And fireworks have gone off at Kentucky.
Oh, my, and what a save that was from Michael Goodman there, Justin. I don't know how he was able to keep that car pointed basically straight by the end of that. But yeah, just a misjudgment here from Wood, unfortunately. Looked like Goodman came down in front of him, and Wood just didn't want to lift there. He tried to get back to the outside of Goodman, and unfortunately just misjudged it, and that's taken Goodman straight out of that top 10, and it's going to put him well back in this field.
Goodman nearly was hit 2 or 3 times there, sliding it back up and locking up. Here's Wood. There's the misjudgment, trying to get to the outside. And that's brought us under caution. Wood, it appears, does not have any physical or visual damage right now. Will he elect to stay out? Will anyone elect to stay out with 22 laps to go this time now? Let's find out. And it looks like one thought about it for a split second, and Nick DeGroot. Everyone else says, I'm keeping the track position for now, it appears.
Yeah, the track position is definitely important, but if you're sort of that back half of the top 10, or sorry, back half of the top 15, top 20 area, I might be looking to do something a little bit different here. But then again, we didn't have too many green flag laps. It was only about 3 or 4 green flag laps, so not a lot of time to really get the shine off the tires here. So I'm not surprised that we didn't have too many takers there.
Now the main thing to discuss too when it comes to that too with Goodman, he elected to not change the tires despite the massive amount of sliding he just did in 19th. He did have that initial comeback down for that run to the front straightaway. Do you think that may have been a factor before that move by Wood maybe? Or no?
Yeah, I do think that Wood probably wasn't expecting Goodman to go quite as far down. But to be fair, Goodman was basically running the racing line there. He just, I don't think he realized that Wood had quite the run that he did, and at the same time, Wood didn't realize exactly what Goodman was intending to do. And ultimately, when you get run into from behind, you have to sort of put the blame on the car behind, because the drivers do have two pedals and a steering wheel, and they need to use all of them to avoid a wreck in a situation like that.
See the results in turn with the caution bring us now to 21 to go this time around. Taylor still the race leader. Wood, Malone the top 3 still. Schowen, DeGroot, Sanders, Wagner, Hassert the top 8. And of note, everyone's favorite time, fuel burn time, is underway throughout the pack.
And I will say here, Justin, one driver that we definitely need to highlight here who's quietly made his way up into the top 5 is Nick DeGroot. He's one of those drivers, I think, who is on a little bit fresher tires, but he's been making some moves here gotten around Gavin Sanders on that last run, and he's looking really strong here to finish this out.
I was about to say absolutely, and we'd seen and heard from him a little while ago about being essentially now the leading driver for that organization and the differences from last year. I think this will be a major motivational builder for DeGroot and the rest of the camp if they can hold on to a top 10, let alone top 5 right now. DeGroot does have a little older tires, keep in mind, though, by a couple laps compared to the rest of the race leaders. His fellow teammates had some ups and downs. Musselman has come down for more tires in this caution flag period. He's 27th. And, of course, we mentioned Jacob Oster, 33rd. So coming up to 20 to go, 19 when we get the green flag waving with the lights out on top of the iRacing pace car this time. Taylor, he's been lights out dominant. No lap car between them this time, though.
Yeah, and that's going to be very important for Wood here. He needs to have a good restart. He hasn't had a good restart in a couple, on both of the restarts. We saw on the first one, he got swallowed up just a little bit, had to fight his way back through. And on that last one with the lap car, he didn't have the best restart either. So it's very, very important for Wood. He has to have that good restart. He has to be well within draft range of Matt Taylor, and he's got to make this move as early as he possibly can in order to really start mixing it up with Taylor. And if Taylor gets too far out in front, I think it's just going to be very difficult to pass him.
And keep in mind, too, not just because Forsyth is on vacation, but also because of some of the drivers who are players in this, the standings may have a lot of shaking up after tonight, to say the least. We talked about, say, the consistency of Samuel Ryman. He's having his worst run of the season right now at 17th position, for example. But the iRacing pace car, ready to drop off. And just in, 64, Andrew Wood, drive-through penalty, avoidable contact.
Yeah, I'm not surprised with that call. It's definitely, it's tough to make that call if you're race control, but I think it's the right decision. Ultimately, if you're trailing behind like that, you need to be able to back off and anticipate that happening. But that being said, we had a really good start from Nick DeGroot there. He's gotten around Tony Schow, and he's right on the back of Trevor Malone here. And Malone is using the draft of Andrew Wood to really get back up, and I think we've got a real good fight here between these top three. Taylor, Malone, and DeGroot are really going for it here on this restart.
Good respect from Wood. He backs out of the battle to give these drivers space. Malone looks to go to work. DeGroot looks to go to the inside for second. The draft being pulled ahead by Taylor. Taylor tries to block the run from Malone. Malone goes right up to the tire. Contact for third. Multiple spins. Sanders and DeGroot to the wall. More crashes in turn 1 and 2. We're under caution. Munoz amongst those in heavy collisions. Goodman also collected again.
Yeah, we had two separate incidents here. First of all, with DeGroot and Sanders. DeGroot was really pinching down Sanders on the exit of turn 2, and Sanders, he really had nowhere to go. He was always going to be drifting up there. So I think it was just DeGroot. He messed up coming into turn 2, tried to get the draft back and didn't realize that Sanders was there. They made contact, but there's a separate incident back behind them between, that was, I believe it was Goodman was in it, as well as, oh my, that was a big impact from both of them. And that, unfortunately for Goodman, I'm going to put more on him. He just moved up the track too far here on this entry. And really, there was no reason for him to go quite that high on that entry. And unfortunately, the two cars touched. And yeah, I'm going to have to put that one more on Goodman than anything else.
So two more drivers use the top of the safer barrier as a skateboarding guardrail to grind atop of. Track position being kept by a majority of the drivers, it appears once again. But now, you were talking about cautions, precautions. All of a sudden, we get the most cautions in a 20-lap stretch all race.
Absolutely, and not only that, but we've also thinned out a number of the rookies as well here, Justin. Between Gavin Sanders, who is having such a promising run, and Andrew Wood with the penalty. All of this is to say that suddenly the entire complexion of the top five has changed in the space of about 5 laps here. And I will say the one thing with Wood is he was serving that when that caution came out. That is a valid penalty serve. He will not have to redo that, but it does allow him to stay on that lead lap. So albeit in 23rd position right now, he is still at least not as negatively impacted as he could have been.
Yeah, on the lead lap, in fact, the last driver with that mark, Mike Rigney, 1 lap down behind him. Everybody else outside of Herrick and Godzo, massive, massive damages throughout these past few incidents. Coming out, 14 to go this time by the stripe. Taylor looking to add to his trophy case for this season in this series. In line for what would be his 2nd win of the season if he can hold on here for just another 12 or 13 green flag laps.
Yeah, he's only got 13 laps to go or so, but you make it sound easy, but at the same time, we've seen how aggressive Trevor Malone is, and we've also seen the maturity that he's had to really pull off the moves that he's tried in the past. This year, it's really starting to come together for Malone, and then Schoen we've seen has been fast, and then, of course, Matt Wagner in that 3 car. Now that we've had all this caution, he definitely can turn the wick up full blast. So it'll be very interesting to see, because I think Matt Taylor will be under the most pressure he's ever been under this race.
So with the 23 drivers in the lead lap, a few of the other storylines threaded in that as well. Wagner still inside the top 5 after a no qualifying day with his technical issues earlier. But his older rubber might have a good shot here. Joe Hasser's up to the top 5. Gabe Wood is looking for one of his best runs in the Speedway Series as well. He's up to 7th amongst that rookie wave. Will Gibson, who had some good speed in the early going of the year, is up to 9th right now on the track for the restart. And oh, by the way, Ron Hacker, we haven't mentioned him too much tonight. A very quiet night for the 21. Didn't have the best of qualifying performances. With some of the speed showcased from that 21, he's up to 8th, plus 13 after that incident.
And don't forget Joe Branch, Mr. Consistency, quietly has got himself up into 6th place as well. So he's really also showing why he's still in that top 3 in the championship. So we have a number of stories of just sort of quiet races that have really turned into some potentially good finishes here.
Want to go taken now at that time by around the stripe. For this restart, Taylor, Malone, Schoen, Wagner, Hassert, the top 5, Branch, Wood, Hacker, Gibson, Nunez, the top 10 on circuit. No lap cars amongst that top 10 drivers to compete with, and next caution either way would trigger the point where the lap cars would have to drop to the back. We would be within 10 to go when the lights would go off the iRacing pace car from here on out. Matt Taylor looks to close it out for the HyperX 200 from Kentucky. Trevor Malone looks to rip it away from him, along with the rest of the gang. iRacing pace car off. 12 to go from Sparta. Yeah, we're again clinging to the launch, but keep in mind that draft has been pivotal off some of these restarts in through turns 3 and 4. Here's a look at some of the battles faring out behind Wagner. The rest of the top 3, they try different things. Malone tries to follow the snake. Schoen just stays to the outside.
Yeah, that was not the restart that Matt Wagner needed there. He's quickly falling off the back of the top 3 here, and he's got his hands full with Joe Branch and Joe Hassert right behind him. But all the eyes right now, Justin, on this top 3. Trevor Malone right on the back of Matt Taylor. Tony Schoen, as he mentioned, he's just hanging out watching these two battle. I think that you're going to see Malone try to knock down the score, while Schoen is just going to remain patient for the next few laps. Look for Schoen to make a move, I'd say, with about 5 to 7 laps to go.
10 to go, that time by the stripe. Trevor Malone tries it up on the top side. Last time he got to the right rear tire. couldn't do anything with it. This time, a big run down the backstretch. Defensive line for Taylor. Malone forced up to the third line. Caution is out again behind him down the backstretch. Samuel Ryman involved. We're under yellow once more. And another car to the inside fence. That's Dean Mall.
And this is, I think, a little bit of a repeat of what we saw from that first incident. You see another driver here in Dean Mall. He goes just high through that turn 1, and then when he tries to come down off of 2, he just tries to dime in the corner too much, tries to get too much out of that corner exit, and that car, he just had nowhere else to go but where he was tracking out to. And then Sam Ryman, even though he was disappeared at the time, you can see there was definite contact made there, even with the iRacing prediction code predicting where Sam Ryman was going to be. So unfortunate incident there for those two.
I was about to say, even though in some cases such as that one, you may be not appearing on the track, you technically still are for another second or two after said situations. Or true for Samuel Ryman, by the time he may or may not have realized what may have happened, his car may or may not have gotten a meatball from that. But we are approaching the point of no return with this caution. Not a lot of time left if you're Malone, Shawan and company to go on the attack. Malone had a good chance there right before the caution to take the lead.
Yeah, and Malone looks really, really strong here. But the car that I'm really interested in is Tony Shawan, because he's been doing a good job of just watching these two fight. And I think that the fireworks here aren't done yet. And a driver like Shawan or Wagner or Branch could really emerge victorious here if the fireworks continue in the top two here.
Keep in mind that some of the drivers looking really positive about this. Include drivers such as Gabe Whoopi gave the shout out to him about his performance here tonight. Has been amongst that mix in the top half of the field, 6th position for this restart coming up. Had been amongst the top 5 towards the end at Homestead. Looking to match, if not outdo that mark, if he can keep himself clean for about 5 more laps. All while Trevor Malone plays back and forth throttle time with Matt Taylor.
Yeah, and there will be a lot of fuel gamesmanship going on here. You're going to want to try and get your fuel down as low as you possibly can in this caution, just to make your car as light as possible. The lighter the car is, the easier it handles, the more responsive it is, and the more likely you are to be able to make the move that you need to make the move to win. So I expect all of these drivers will be burning some fuel, and then just trying to make sure that their tires are right in that optimum window for this dash to the finish here.
So things settling on in for what may likely be the final restart. Point of return quickly around the horizon, around four laps to go when it comes to Kentucky and its legacy version here on iRacing. Very quietly amongst this battling too, remember one of the EOL drivers? Many of them have had some bad times today amongst those who made starts. Jeff Sheehan and Credit Carter, though, they are both in the conversation for the top 10 as well, despite being in the EOL pack to start off the night.
Sometimes quiet races are the best races, Justin, and that's definitely the case for Jeff Xiong and Creighton Carter. They've just quietly allowed the other drivers around them to make mistakes. They've taken the opportunities that have presented themselves, worked their way up, worked the strategy really well, and they find themselves overcoming those EOLs and really having the potential to have a nice top 10 finish for both Carter and Xiong here if they play their cards right here. So definitely a nice strong drive from both of them.
5 to go when we get the green flag waving. The lights are out on top of the iRacing pace car. Matt Taylor says thank you by revving the engine. He leads the pack over Malone, Shawan, Wagner, Branch, Wood, Hacker, and Will Gibson. The top 8, Joe Hassert has dropped back to 9th after a lot of those battles. Jeff Sheehan rounds out the top 10 up 21 positions. Amongst the freshest tires to keep in mind, Andrew Wood, he's back in 21st, did not pick up too much ground and had a wing change during a stop under the previous caution. And then, on top of things, you have drivers such as AJ Musselman in 17th with the fresh rubber. from his top-off calls. 5 laps to do it. Can Malone find a way around, or can Taylor defend? iRacing pace car ready to peel off for the HyperX 200 at Kentucky. 5 to go from Sparta, Kentucky. Taylor in control of the field, waiting for the pace car to get to the cone. He doesn't wait for it. Did he jump the pace car? Will this be a possible in-sim penalty? Let's see as Taylor's off and away. No indication from the sim quite yet. Taylor looks to be okay for now. He pulls away from Malone and company. They battle behind to the inside, passing by Joe Branch around Wagner.
And Joe Branch, he's got some of the freshest tires out here, so he's definitely looking racy here. He's got his teammate right in front of him, and Tony Schowen. Schowen is going to have to try to find a way around Malone, though, but they both do well to cooperate just long enough to get back onto the back of Taylor, because the thing that Taylor wants to see in their mirrors is exactly this, both cars going side by side. But right now, Trevor Malone, he's got the draft, and he is really closing up on the back of Matt Taylor.
Ready to go this time. Look from the back bumper in the back wing of Matt Taylor. Past the point of no return, Malone looks for the draft. Here comes Schowen and Branch with them. To the outside, Malone. He tries the leap. Can't get to the outside groove alongside Taylor for turn 2.
And the problem with all of these restarts, Justin, is they've been slowly using up their tires more and more. So the question is, does Trevor Malone have the tires to really make one more move at him? We've only got 2 laps to go here at the line. Branch, meanwhile, making the move on his teammate. He's all the way up into 3rd place now, and he might have the freshest tires here, so he might also have a shot at this too.
Diamond attempt for Malone again to pick up some draft. Tries to get some cleaner air for the run to turn 3. Here is Joe Branch, Mr. Consistency. Looks to try and get a victory. Coming to the white flag, final time around for the HyperX 200 at Kentucky.
Right now, Matt Taylor looks like he's in the exact spot he wants. He's got that control of the inside lane. Malone looking to the outside, but I just don't think that Malone has the tires left to be able to make this work. Meanwhile, Joe Branch is firmly in 3rd place. Tony Schowen is there, but it looks like it's Malone and Taylor for the win.
Here comes Malone with the diamond. He tries to set it up to the run to the outside. The apron for Taylor. Taylor wins the HyperX 200 at Kentucky. Taylor with a dominant performance, 101 of 134 led laps, and for the 2nd time this season, he finds his way to HyperX victory lane.
Oh,
what a run.
What a run, Justin, and what a finish there. Trevor Malone, he did everything he possibly could, but Matt Taylor, he made the right moves there. He defended the inside, and that was just the perfect way to cap off this race. He had the fastest car, no question, today. It was just a matter of would he be able to make those tires work, and he did just enough there to beat Trevor Malone back to the line.
A big night for the number 8 machine, a big points night for many others. And now, for Matt Taylor, will this be the spark for him in the Speedway Series to charge his way to the top of the standings and then some over the next couple months, especially with this type of race and its history? Let's take a look at the unofficial race results brought to you by SimRace247.com, where Taylor picked up the victory by about a 100 over Trevor Malone. Joe Branch picks up another top 5, his 3rd of the season, with a 3rd place run, with Tony Schowen and Matt Wagner, your top 5. Gabe Wood wasn't able to match his run from Homestead, but he still picks up another top 10 for JD Esports, with Will Gibson in 7th. Ron Hacker finishes in 8th, while Creighton Carter recovers from an EOL penalty to bring the NLR Sim Racing machine to 9th. Ricky Harden rounds out the top 10 tonight. Jeff Gion finished in 11th, with Joe Hasser dropping back and quickly to 12th at the end of the race. Luis Gonzalez Nunez and Mike Gibson the top 14. Shane Coogan had a very solid night in 15th, with AJ Musselman with the fresher tires able to recover to 16th. Dakota May finished 17th, and Andrew Wood charged in the final few laps of the race to 18th. Eagle Gallas and James Watson, after being used as a ramp, rounded out the top 20. 21st went to Christian Jasper. He was the last car to finish on the lead lap tonight, with Mike Rigney not able to recover from a penalty on his pit exit to be in 22nd. Jim Herrick, Gary Godsell, amongst the drivers who did make it to the end, laps down. Sammy Ryman, after his troubles, finished 25th, Dean Mull 26th. Nick DeGroot finished in 27th with Gavin Sanders, Gonzalo Munoz, and Michael Goodman in 30th. Isaiah Dupree finished 31st. Beard, Fowler, Oster, and Kane rounded out the 35 entrants. The fastest lap went to Ricky Harden with a couple laps to go in the 24.4s. That's a look top to bottom with the running order, as that brings us into our post-race coverage presented by HyperX, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary Ultra Comfortable line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows for all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit HyperX.com. It's time to head straight to HyperX Victory Lane, where tonight it's Matt Taylor who picks up the W. Matt, you dominated from the get-go just about. You carved your way through the dirty air in the early going and quickly got by Michael Goodman and didn't let go for most of the night. Talk us through how you did it.
Yeah, it was a tough night. I want to start off thanking sponsors, Raceverse, broadcasting the Monday Night Fix, Sunset Arctic for doing the graphics for us, and a game developer, and got 4D Raceware on there too. Really, the key was looking after those tires. Even with all the shade and what was a pretty cool track, the long run, the front tires give up a lot. If you could really save those fronts, it really paid dividends as that run went on. And once I got into clean air, I felt like I was able to take care of those tires enough, and I was able to open up that gap and was feeling pretty good until that rash of cautions at the end there.
That was also going to be something to discuss, because you had to hold off a lot of drivers there. Malone, Brent, Shallon, and company were looking to pounce several times. What was going through your mind is, especially as the last restart came to be, Malone looked to try and find a way around several times.
Yeah, it was a lot of, oh no, not again, and I want no part of these cautions. I'm actually shaking a little bit. It was a lot of run the low line and hope the tires have enough in them to hold it. That higher to middle of the track was absolutely faster, but I could not give up that outside position and needed to hold the bottom. And I think if I'd given up the bottom at any time to try and run it, Trevor would have clipped me on one of those cautions.
Well, congratulations on the victory tonight, Matt. It's your second of the season.
Thank you so much.
Matt Taylor picks up the victory for Team Race for Sunset. Second place goes to Trevor Malone. And Trevor, you almost got to the checkered for the victory and almost had the chance to win with just one lead lap. How do you feel about your night? Second step of the podium.
I'm just a sad man driving my sim racing stuff. I don't know. I just wish it went green the entire time. I think that was the only chance I had to pass Matt. But I don't know. It was a fun time. Bit of a long, drawn-out race, but just wish the cautions didn't happen. But you know, you can't predict that at all. So I'm all right with it.
How would you describe the tire balance and tire fall-off battling? Because the strategies on said tires seem to be very prevalent tonight, whether it was the cautions where drivers stayed out, or more so, the drivers who went for the undercut by up to 5 laps under green.
Indeed. Once the tires heat up, they become complete junk. So I was trying to ride the high line most of the time. That's the way to pass here a little bit. But I don't know. Those last few cautions on the restarts, I had a couple of passes because the tires were still a little bit fresh. But I just didn't have enough tire for passing Matt at the end of the race. So thanks for everybody for coming out, and appreciate the interview and everything.
Once you get back to your sim rig, congratulations, Trevor.
Yep.
Trevor Malone rounds out the top 2. Joe Branch finished in 3rd. Mr. Consistency, as Andrew Kinsella calls him. Joe, you pick up our top 5 tonight. Talk us through your night as you quietly drove your Bumblebee-colored machine to the top 3.
10-4. Well, I'm sicker than a dog, so I had no business doing an interview, but I didn't want to stiff you guys. I was saving fuel early in case that was the route to go. It ended up not being, so I had to race my way back. Had to save the tires at times so they would help me at the end of the runs. I think that's what paid off and let me pass some cars towards the end. Ultimately, a top 3 was definitely better than I expected, and definitely want to congratulate Andrew on being a newlywed.
Yes, indeed. Big for him, indeed. But again, it's your 10th career top 5 in the series, by the way, with this finish. You're in that conversation for the championship fight because of that consistency. How are you feeling about said conversation now? Because you've been among the drivers who have kept it clean, despite not making it to victory lane yet, but amongst those, possibly in the top 3 or so, coming into the next race at Worldwide Technology Raceway.
Yeah, I'm going to stay in the conversation the whole season. I think Indy will be a big factor with the double points and then the finale. But ultimately, the goal is really just to complete every lap of the season and then let everything else take care of itself.
Congratulations on the podium, Joe.
Thank you guys.
That's Joe Branch rounding up the top 3. I'd like to thank him as well as the rest of our top 3 and Trevor Malone, Matt Taylor for taking the time to speak with us from Kentucky. Andrew tonight brought plenty of fireworks, plenty of strategies, but now the page turns towards Gateway, Worldwide Technology Raceway, the second of the 2 races in May.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be a different challenge for all of these drivers here. It was a big 1.5 mile oval, but next up is a short track, and it really drives probably the most unique place in terms of driving out of everywhere that we go, just because you have that really, really tight first and second corners. You have to do some downshifting, even some braking at certain points. And then you have that wide open turns 3 and 4 that you can really get some runs down that front straightaway. So it should be a very entertaining race, and I can't wait to see what these drivers do with that in 1 week's time.
And all of that being in the shadows of the Gateway Arch, again, May 16th, 10:05 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:05 p.m. Pacific, or when that hits for the green flag. But I'd like to take the time to thank our sponsors, being a huge part of this series. Mojo Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Mojo Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows for all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit HyperX.com. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now, you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Buttkicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine red line. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer devoted to creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com. Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision-built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a driving experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com. And on that note, we'd like to also thank the many others who are a part of Lionheart's competitions and how things click together. To learn more, go to LionheartRacingSeries.com to learn about the sanctioning body's racing series across the iRacing platform. The next time the Lionheart Racing Series hits the track is this upcoming Thursday, May the 12th, when the Lionheart Retro Series presented by Next Level Racing visits Brands Hatch for the Graphics Esports Grand Prix presented by Next Level Racing. That race scheduled to start 10:05 p.m. Eastern. But with that, it's time to say goodbye. For Juno Kankapati and Andrew Kinsella, I'm Justin Prince. Thank you for watching tonight's action on RaceSpot TV and ESTV for the Lionheart Speedway Series. Congratulations to your race winner from Kentucky, Matt Taylor, your winner